everyone, it's Belladonna and Madam Roxy again, bringing you what I would call a special kind of video. Special for two reasons. One, a lovely young lady reached out to me, the new kids on the block, so to speak. We will not be talking about the new kids on the block, so you know, slip of the tongue. The new children in town, how's that one? Reached out to us to say hello. Her name is Jess In King. Thank you, Jess, for reaching out. I shall make sure that there is information below for people to come and look at your channel, and you should look at her channel. She has a wonderful array of diverse topics, specifically in music of the gothic variety, which is what we like. But there's one individual that I saw her cover, and I was very surprised because rarely do I see this individual talked about. I don't know why. Not much of a trendsetter and quite an amazing musician, but I don't hear it enough. And so, Jess In King, this is for you. I am going to talk about Fad Gadget. Look at that. Look at that. That is Fad Gadget right there. Little glare on the picture. Now, I don't have a lot of records of Fad Gadget. They're not very easy to come by. These are ones I had to sort of track down and get, and they weren't too expensive, but they were really cool to get. This individual, Fad Gadget, aka Frank Toby, was something of a trendsetter in the time when such bands were either just starting up or hadn't even really started up yet. There was that period between the 70s to the 80s where things were just sort of floating about. There was punk music, there was new wave music, there was the new British invasion, there was all of this different stuff going on. And disco, for goodness sake. Disco was still dying, not quite dead yet, thankfully getting there. Some disco is alright, okay, some disco I can dig. But by and large, disco. So anyway, around 1979, this artist came up. Fad Gadget. Now you might say, what's so fab about Fad Gadget? Well, let me tell you. Number one, we have a sort of experimental, gothic new wave, industrial type of music, which is something that would become much more common later on. But at this point, this was very new. Now, Fad Gadget had a lot of connections to many artists that are known now, chief among them being the great Depeche Mode. I've heard it said that if Fad Gadget had not been there, Depeche Mode may not be here. And a world without Depeche Mode weeps. You can see how upset she is at the thought of a world without Depeche Mode. So upset that she just falls asleep. So, we're going to talk a little about Fad Gadget. I'm not going to get into too much detail. I'm just going to show you what I do have. I wish I had more. But let's take a look. As I see, there's a record here. I'll get you a better picture than that. It's kind of hard to see in the glare. Here we have One Man's Meat. Now, some of these pictures, many of them are taken by an individual named Anton Corbin. Anton Corbin, as you may know, has done many projects. If you were to look up his work, he's quite a diverse individual, but I always came to know him primarily for doing a lot of the photographic and videographic work for Depeche Mode. Connection. Anton Corbin. So he did this picture. Anton Corbin is still, I believe, working with Depeche Mode and many others. He also did an interesting film about James Dean and the photographer Dennis Stark. It had, what's his name, Robert Pattinson, Batman, Twilight Batman in it. I haven't seen it, but he's a film director in his own right as well, mostly talking about being a cameraman, but very interesting. So we also have another Fad Gadget here, Life on the Line. I love this picture. I don't know. Did Corbin do this one? He did. Anton Corbin is freaking weird, ladies and gentlemen. There he is. Fad Gadget hanging. Now, Fad Gadget was no stranger to doing weird things. If you go and look at some of his work, you might find the one where he tars and feathers himself. Tars and, I believe it was actual tar and actual feathers. It wasn't cake frosting. Tars and feathering himself. Really cool. I believe there's a point in another stage show where he's shaving himself. So, hanging upside down, not so weird. But Anton Corbin took this one as well, and Anton Corbin has a mind like no other. If you look at, say, early Depeche Mode stuff, it's like, oh yes, they're very cute and poppy. And then you start to get Anton Corbin's influence, and you see a lot more interesting and unusual, sometimes bizarre stuff. Think Walking in My Shoes, all that stuff. Or think of the Nirvana, oh goodness, what is it? Heart-shaped box. Anton Corbin's work. The weirdest, I think, of Nirvana's work. And I think some of the best, in my opinion. So Anton Corbin taking lots of pictures of Fad Gadget being Fad Gadget, I suppose. Here we are, Fad Gadget's Saturday Night Special. Now, if you look at this picture, there's another one here. I'm going to show you that. This is King of the Flies. And if you can see them both well enough there, that'll glare. If you look at this costume he's wearing, now, he was very big on costumes and whatnot. He seemed like such an eccentric and unusual individual, obviously. Costumes, bizarre antics on stage, really, really cool music, and said to be a rather kind of quiet and shy person in real life, as so often is the case. But here he is in this costume, and if you're familiar with, going back to the British type of earlier days of Punch and Judy, the old puppet show known as Punch and Judy, he looks a little bit like Punch there, with his big nose and whatnot, and his odd costume. That's what I think. Anyway, I'd have to look into that more, but I think he's got the jester's sort of hat on there, Punch and Judy looking thing. And I think, did Corbin do these? Yes. Photography by Anton Corbin. Anton Corbin. So his Punch and Judy looking stuff there. Very cool. I wish I had more of his work to really show for you. I have here, like this one, Insecticide it's called. Is a little bit more simplistic, which has got the record going there. Now this, if I'm not mistaken, it says from the album to be released end of September 1980. Think of that. In 1980, Fad Gadget was doing weird stuff. And even though there were many other bands that were well known at the time, he was, strangely not, I think maybe he was a bit too bizarre. I don't know if that makes sense. But I don't think he was very conforming to a lot of ideals, and he just sort of did his own thing. Now here you have, okay, these albums, Fad Gadget's actual name is Frank Toby. Frank Toby is another name he, of course, released music under. And if you look, we've got Frank Toby, Rich Street Shuffle. Now, what is that all about, you might ask? Well, I suppose, and I don't know because I never met the individual, that he wanted to release music of a different sort under not the Fad Gadget name. Fad Gadget was known for the weird antics, the bizarre costumes and tar and feathering and whatever else, and the certain type of music. So he went forward and started releasing things under the Frank Tovey name, his actual name, which is a bit more, bluesy inspired, a little more mellow. Not the same, but quite enjoyable all the same. So you have this one here, Civilian. The glare I get on these things, good lord. Could see my light in them. There you go. We also have, what here? Oh yes. So I like this one because it's got a really cool artwork on it. It's Frank Joby, Tyranny, and the hi-hat band. It's just really great. You know, he has such style. You can only imagine what this guy's brain was like, you know, just to be so creative and unusual and artistic. You know, I know you could say there's a lot of them out there that were doing that, but are there or were there? I don't know. It's a shame that, you know, Frank Toby, Fad Gadget did not get to really enjoy the success that others did, like Depeche Mode, for instance. How about that? Depeche Mode, of course, is still legendary to this day. They're an amazing band, but unfortunately, Fad Gadget passed away at the age of 45 due to a heart attack. So he was still very young when he passed, and left so much work undone, I suppose, as often happens. Really is truly a shame, but he did leave quite a legacy, and I urge you to listen to more of his music. Now, as I say, I will create a playlist for you. I urge you to check that out and see if you enjoy Fad Gadget as much as I do. So, I'm going to go ahead and leave it at that because those are all the records that I have. And I don't want to give away too much. Just go and check out the strange and unusual and lovely, brilliant world of Fad Gadget, aka Frank Toby. Thank you, and I'm just going to have to say, Madam Weeps, you're doing absolutely nothing again. No, I'm looking at you. Don't look at me that way. I'm talking about you. Freeloader. Thank you again to Jess In King for reaching out to me and providing this inspiration for me to do this. I wanted to talk about Fad Gadget, and I didn't really think I'd get around to it. So thank you very much, dear. And I'm just going to say, for Madam Weeps, there she is. Look at her. Thank you all for watching, and we'll see you again soon. Bye.